Previously, I made a pencil and brush to write in my book, but next, I want to take a look at the origin of today's most common writing instrument, the pen. The first common form of the pen was a basic reed pen, dating as far as 3000 BC. The quill pen became popular starting in the 6th century, as they were more flexible and lasted longer than reed pens. It wouldn't be until 1822 that the metal pen would eventually replace the quill. I'm here with Dennis Rude, a professional bookbinder and calligrapher, and he's going to teach me how to make a quill. So I have a variety of feathers I've collected from other projects now. I have ostrich feathers, pheasant feathers, and wild turkey feathers. So of these, do any of these work for making a quill?
Well, I think that the turkey feather would be good for a quill, but the others are not. They would be too weak.
Turkey feather work best is because of the thicker stem here?
Yes, exactly. They're stronger, thicker walled implements, and they cut better into quills, last longer as writing implements. The word pen is another word for a quill, which is from the Latin for feather, penna. And so we'll make the traditional historical quill pens made from the flight feathers of large birds. Geese have been preferred historically. You pull them off the bird and soak them in some water overnight, and then you heat them in hot sand, and that is called clarification, or curing the quills, and it makes them a little bit hard. Try to fill it up with sand and not burn your hand. And put it in the hot sand. Leave it in there for maybe a minute. And that's really all it is. How you cut a quill is like this. It's got, first of all, this wispy membrane on the outside, and it needs to be scraped off. The next thing you do is to put the slit in. And in order to put the slit in, I'd first just remove some material from the end, just slice it off. Put the knife in, you know, just like that much of the knife, so that it hits and has the sort of leverage that will make the slit. And then, okay, that's good. And I want to start cutting then, the cutting around the slit, opposite from where that slit was, and just start scraping and pulling on either side of the slit. And then I've got rather much more material than I need there, so I'll take a toenail clipper and just remove a bunch. And you get to a certain point, and I wear a finger protector cut off from a rubber glove, and you flatten the inside of the tube, because that's where it meets the paper and it needs to be flat. So just slightly scraping. And okay, that's good. You could stop there. And you make a couple of slits at the end here. One is a beveled cut, which is at maybe a 30-degree angle or so, and you end up with that. You can test it on a plate like that and see that when you press down, the nib spreads apart slightly.
Okay.
So it's got this good flexibility. You can see it'll deliver ink.
Now that you've shown me how to make a few quills, can you show me how to use it?
Well, I'll see what I can do, Andy. I'll give it a shot. First of all, I got a little bit of ink. Dip the pen in. Whenever you're going to write something, have some scratch paper, some waste paper, so that you can see that the pen is going to work well.
So I see the table's at a slant. Is there a reason for that?
Oh yes, it's very important for the delivery of ink, because it puts the pen at a horizontal angle. As the table gets flatter, the pen goes up and up like that, and it starts to bleed ink because of gravity, rather than the careful delivery of ink by the slit. That's the main reason that you have a slanted table. And when you look at old manuscripts and pictures of old calligraphers, the ancient calligraphers, they're almost always at slanted tables.
So besides having to dip it in ink and write at an angle, what else is different from just using a regular ballpoint?
The whole deal with these quill pens like you have, like you made, is that they have a chisel edge. I'll kind of draw a picture of what the quill point looks like. So you see it's got this chisel edge on it.
As compared to like a ballpoint pen,
It's just a round blob. It's just pulling a blob of ink around in various directions. So that's kind of the secret of Western calligraphy and even Western typography. It's all related to an edged pen like that, the weight and the appearance of letters. For instance, if you have the letter O, you can see that it has thin parts and thick parts related to the fact that it's got this chisel edge on it.
The style of Western calligraphy is kind of based on the fact that they use quills?
Exactly. Eastern calligraphy, Oriental calligraphy, and Middle Eastern calligraphy use brushes and just have a completely different mechanics of delivering ink. But with Western, this is what it is, related to quills, and before that, reed pens. The way they essentially work is you always are making strokes by pulling down and from left to right, like that. And if you're going to make the second part of the O, you go back up, so you're coming down and from left to right, essentially. So you make it in two parts. If you're making the letter N, straight down like that, go back up there, you make an arch on the top like an O, and come down, a little serif on the bottom.
Okay, so like when you write with a modern pen, you just kind of do whatever. If you draw an O, you just go do the full circle. So with a quill, you have to do it
more careful. Yeah, more careful with where the thicks and thins go and how they connect. This particular hand, which is a Carolingian hand that's closely related to every modern type that you see in a book today. Okay. They're all related to this kind of letter that I've been doing right here. Dates from the 9th century, if not earlier.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because in Western writing, they use the quill, which has a flat nib, so that has affected the style of font, which even now that we're like a few generations beyond using the quill, our font still looks like that.
Exactly. The nature of this pen formed the way these letters look. If you see a letter M and you wonder, oh, it's got thin legs and thick legs, if you remember it was made by a pen, that first leg is a little thinner, this leg is thicker, then this one's thinner again, and that one's thicker again. And that's why M's are the way they are. They are that way because of this kind of pen.
Huh. Yeah. It's really interesting. It's not something you normally think about.
Nope. Okay, Andy, this was a little introduction to calligraphy and quill pen writing. Why don't you try it?
All right, I'll give it a shot. Looks pretty good.
Yes. Very good.